Folks, in this video we're going to look at what do you need to build a computer, whether it be a desktop, gaming computer, workstation. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that most computers all have in common are a computer case. So they come in various sizes, and I'll have a video that goes into much more detail, but this is a full tower, which is pretty massive. A second ago you saw a couple mid towers, and this is going to protect all of your computer equipment. And in the other video we'll talk about different things like fans that come with it, the connectors on the front of the case, and a lot of other details. So that is really one of the main things to start with on this. Alright, next, all computers have some type of motherboard. And this is where your CPU is going to plug in at, your RAM, different connectors for power from your power supply, graphics card, and your display connectors, as well as USB type connectors. Also going to need a power supply, so lots of options out there. And when you do your PSU calculations, just make sure that you select a power supply that is great enough to power your system. I've got a video out there that we talk about that. You always want to make sure you have some kind of buffer. So calculations say you need 400 watts, you probably should get 500. If in the future you think you're going to upgrade to a better graphics card than what you have, or your CPU is in the future is going to draw more power, you may want to bump that up. Alright, so one of the two biggest things that are going to make your computer successful for, say, gaming is your CPU. And in this case, you really have two choices, AMD or Intel. And there are advantages to both of these. So in another video I will help you select AMD versus Intel, and then from there also we will get into details of whether you want an i3, an i9, a Ryzen 3, a Ryzen 9, and all that good stuff. Okay, so this is the brains of your computer, and we'll also talk about CPU coolers that go with it. So that is another very important thing that you need. So let's take a look at those. All right, so here's an example of Intel's CPU cooler that comes stock with a lot of their CPUs. This is your bare bones basically, right? Not a lot of features. Doesn't do the best job of keeping your CPU cool, but it does work, and this is what you need at a minimum. Here's an example of an AMD CPU cooler. This is also pretty much their bare bones. This would come with something like a Ryzen 5 3600X, something very similar to this for the Ryzen 3 3200G. Here is a better version of the AMD CPU cooler. This has got the RGB lights. It's really cool. If you really want to protect your investment, whether it be a Ryzen 9 or in this case an i9 9900KF, you'll want to buy one of these awesome Nock 2 CPU coolers. Alright, so storage, another very important thing. So in this case we've got a 2.5-inch hard drive. You also have the 3.5-inch hard drive. You're definitely going to want something like this for storage purposes. May not run your OS on it, because what's better for an operating system are these M.2 NVMe solid state drives. In this case, in this computer, is a 960 Pro Samsung, which is a really awesome drive. And so I've got another video to talk about that. Check that video out, but you definitely need a drive to put your operating system on and to store files. Alright, graphics cards. So all kinds of different graphics cards. Some require power from the power supply. Some get it from the PCI Express slot. I've got a video that talks about graphics cards. In this case I don't show it actually hooked up, but these are your connectors that would connect to it, and all kinds of different variations of this for performance. This happens to be a AMD Radeon 5700, which is pretty good for gaming and for workstation type activities. Here's another example of a graphics card. This is a RX 560, one of the more affordable ones. It only requires a 6-pin connector and gives you base level gaming and is pretty good for just desktop. Would not use it for a workstation. Then we go over here, we've got the RTX 2070 Super. This is a really good gaming card, provides good workstation capability, and is overkill for somebody that just needs a desktop computer. Alright, so in this computer we've got two types of RAM. One's got RGB and the other is more of your traditional RAM. You get all kinds of different speeds out of these for your 8th and 9th gen computers, from pretty much, let's say 2400 megahertz up to I think it's like 4000 something. RAM in these computers, basically DDR4 288 pin, and you'll want to verify what kind of speeds you want to run. I don't really notice a whole lot of performance gain going with a faster RAM, but you know, you can get away usually with the 2666 megahertz and be pretty happy, and get a lot of it for your money versus trying to buy the faster stuff. Alright, so pointing out Wi-Fi cards. So that is something that not everybody needs for their computer, because a lot of you will just use, say, a Ethernet connection. Actually, there's one here as well. And so you don't necessarily need the Wi-Fi card, but I have one in this computer. It's always a nice bonus, especially if you do not have a wall that has Ethernet connection in it. Alright folks, well that's going to do it. Basically those are the main components that you need to build a computer, besides the cables and other things. So I hope you'll check back and check out some other videos.